Beep, 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 beep. Hello all what's new and improved from the Jester News. How are we? Here we go again. I wanted to respond to a great series of tweets from Suella Braverman, who we like. Brave being the operative word. There's a number of things that she's tweeted in a thread, which again, I'll put the linkages in the doobry. But before we begin with that, somebody's explained to me how things work, and I've asked before, you need to share the videos. And you need to retweet me. You know, this is how it's supposed to work. We've got to get the message out there. And everybody's got a vested interest in making the message get out there. The two things that drive the algorithm, that mean it can reach more people, are sharing the videos from YouTube and retweeting on Twitter. That's the two biggies, right? That helps make sure that the message gets out there to as many people as possible so we can keep this conversation growing and not just going. My concern is, and I'll be honest about this, this is such a tiny bubble. Look at what happened in America politically. There's something wrong, right? Okay, people aren't getting the message. They're not getting it. We're not tweeting and retweeting. We're not retweeting enough, and we're not sharing stuff enough. People respond better to videos. I know there's many of you who would like to do what I'm doing, but can't because you feel silenced in many ways. And that's terrible. So I'm hoping that I can urge you to share the videos I produce like nobody's business, retweet when I put them on Twitter, because this is how we get the message out. If you look at what's happening in America and the close race that's occurred because of the voting going on over the moment, it's terrifying to me that people don't get this. I think that the bubble may be smaller than we imagine. Now, bearing in mind that only 5% of the UK is on Twitter, and only 5% of the people that are on Twitter use it. We're a small bubble in that respect. There's obviously big moves in various areas. There's court cases coming up. But the MSM, the mainstream media, aren't reporting. Nobody's really reporting it properly. And nobody seems to be getting the message because schools are still doing what they're doing. We've got to start retweeting and sharing much more. That's the advice I got from a social media specialist this week. It's the secret. So you see something that's pertinent and right, whoever it may be from, retweet, 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 retweet. And do lots of quote tweets as well. Say something, because that's what drives the algorithm. And when it comes to YouTube, it's great. Like, subscribe, do the usual stuff, buy me a thing, all that stuff is fine and helps keep me going. But the most important thing is sharing, right? It's that you share the videos on other social media. That's the advice I got from my free, paid for by the government, social media hour with a specialist. So that's what my recommendation is before I begin talking about Braverman. So let's do Braverman. She went to the partnership summit, which is a police do. There's pictures of her in the Dubras, in the link on the Dubras. And she's just put down 6 key points that she's asked the police to consider. And I think it's important to mention these because they are very useful all round. Now, you will remember Harry Miller, We Are Fair Cop, Sarah of the Phillimore, and all the folks involved in that, took the Royal College of Police to court in order to have hate crime incidents stopped. These, non-crime, hate crime incidents stopped, right? We're way down the road from that and it's still going on. And I don't really understand why. And Braverman now seems to be willing to take this particular bull by the horns and bring it to its bullish knees. Now, so in addition to that, she's done that, right? She says here, I will look closely, my team and I will look closely at non-crime hate incidents to ensure that the police's priorities are focused on tackling crime, not debating gender on Twitter. Well, hallelujah, let's get on with it. I think, Suella, frankly, you need to get rid of the idea of a hate crime at all. Just get rid of it. Most people don't understand it anyway. They go, oh, somebody just misgendered me. It was a hate crime. No, it wasn't. Now, if they punched you in the face, right? Punched you in the face and then made fun of you because you were undergoing gender reassignment, then that might be a hate crime. But there's no hate crime if you're a woman. Right? Punch a woman in the face being a woman, that's not a hate crime. The whole thing's perverse. It needs to go. Crimes are just crimes. Stop messing about. Right, leave the judges to add what they want to add. Deliberately bloody putting all this rubbish in the way. Hate crimes don't need to exist. They're nonsense of the first order. So that's the first bit, right? That's the first bit I'm going to go through there. Here's another interesting one, right? They're also having a talk with the College of Police, who incidentally I think should be shut down, the College of Police, to consider options for a new non-degree entry route. Now that is interesting. That is interesting. To deliver officers of the highest calibre, ensure that forces are open to those who do not have a degree or want one. Yes. I think it was Blair, wasn't it, that started that? Yes, let's do it. Let ordinary men and women who haven't got a degree who would like to be police, let them do it. Get them in. It's not like you can't train them yourself. The next one's an interesting one because I think it's got to do with that lunatic lot over at Stop Oil, right? I gave the police my full support to use all the powers at their disposal to deal with disruptive protesters so that the rights of a selfish minority are not placed above the rights of a law-abiding majority. You're damn right. Good, okay? Is it me or the adults back in the room? Go on, go Suella. I made clear, she says, that organisations and local leaders who have failed to protect children from grooming gangs will be held to account. I imagine Maggie Oliver would be pleased to hear that. You may have seen or may remember the Three Girls documentary that was produced, starring Maxine Peake and various other luminaries in the acting world. It was a tremendous, tremendous drama that really brought to the fore the horror of what people have been suffering. And I think it's absolutely right that people should be held accountable. And the reason they'll be held accountable is probably a number of things, not least of all, that they didn't want to be seen as racist by taking action. I mean, that's what identity, that's what critical social justice and identity politics does to you, right? It makes you forget that there's some real things going on that need dealing with because you're too busy worrying about looking woke. And also very interesting here, the last one really. I am overseeing new guidance on data sharing and bringing together local examples of the best practice to drive up standards and efficiency across policing. That's very interesting. That's going to mean a much more joined up approach in terms of data sharing will help the different police forces deal with, for example, the grooming gangs or with critical social justice warriors that are encouraging violence or encouraging the overthrowing of the government or the overthrowing of our society. So we hopefully will then be able to start reporting some of the lunatics, like the ones at LSE, as part of prevent or as part of attempting to take over and destroy the life that we lead. That's really interesting. All of that is really interesting. So remember, a shout out here for me. I want you to remember this. Manchester Police 6 months ago were in special measures, right? Special measures, because it was so bad. This was like the home of rainbow laces and, policemen dressed as bumblebees and walking around town with dogs on leads with butt plugs. Don't go there. Right, okay. Manchester Police 6 months ago were in special measures. They are no longer in special measures. What is being achieved by the new Chief Constable is extraordinary. It just shows you what can be done when you get back to good policing and you stop policing people's voices, and not only their voices, by default, their thoughts. This is what we need. It's time to get the woke out of our society and to do it each day, all day, no matter who you are. No matter who you are, because that's the only way this is going to end. It's great, as usual, to speak with you, and thank you very much for taking the time. Good Jesterites, go on. You've got things to do.